Drew Davidson.
Hey.
Hi everyone, Warren asked me to go fast so that you had a break, and I can do that. So let's go talk about the Dust Diaries. That was interesting after Jesse did magic to talk about sometimes magic doesn't happen and why. Really quickly, a little about me. I'm the acting director of the Entertainment Technology Center's professional master's program that Jesse and I teach at. Kind of focuses on making cool stuff. It's applied research. We also do ETC Press. It's an open source publishing imprint, kind of covering entertainment technology writ large. We write about video games, transmedia storytelling, board games. Everything's free for download. So I'm kind of focused on games and learning, but I think it applies to BD in general. What I like about this quote is it kind of gets at the whole idea of what Jim Paul G calls chocolate broccoli. That's when dust happens. When you try to just add a little chocolate to some broccoli, and it's just nobody really, you've ruined both.
Marshall McLuhan.
If it's done well, it's like adding chocolate to peanut butter. And you're like, that could be good. But when it's done magically, you actually figure out how to make your own stuff. So those are the ingredients for chocolate chip cookies right there. I added this to Claire Green. So but when it's really, really done well, I think kids, students, learners, us, start becoming our own creators. We start figuring it out and start applying it. But dust does happen. Things go wrong. There are common mistakes that we've found and unfortunate misconceptions that cause educational media and games for learning to go awry and go astray. So I'm going to run through some examples really quickly. All the eggs in one basket. I just want to make one game that does everything under the sun, that teaches it all, that solves every problem. One of the things we hear a lot, I don't know if some of you are familiar with this, I have people come to me going, okay, so I want to make an MMO for kids. I've got $5,000, and I want it to be good for K through 12. And that's not going to happen well. Oh, well, we can talk later. Another thing that happens, people really focus on just making it fun. It's all about fun. Make it fun, make it fun, make it fun. I'd argue that learning and games are challenging, and that's what makes them engaging, not that they're fun. It's the challenge that's more important, the appropriate challenge. But a lot of people focus on, well, if it's just fun, you gotta make it. An easy one, but often gets skipped, playtesting. Not playtesting your ideas with your demographic. You can get adults to play it, they can figure it out, you can play it. And you go, of course it teaches math well. And that prevents you from iterating on your ideas. If you get in front of kids, they'll be brutally honest. Particularly if they don't get it. If you test really well, that gives you such great feedback and you start iterating on your ideas. The obverse of this is feature creep, including every idea you can come up with. Including all the feedback that you get. You're like, oh, kids like that, well, let's add that, let's add that. Next thing you know, you have this monster of an experience and you've lost the focus on what makes it good. So like in a good design process, it's sort of that, what's your goal, and focus around there. Another thing that often happens is excluding team members. So you're making an educational game and you decided the game designers will come when you're ready for them, later in the process. Or you're at a game company and you're like, well, we'll get the learning experts after we made the game fun. We'll start talking to learning specialists then. And we found if you can get them together from the inception of the idea, that helps long term. My favorite thing that Jesse sort of kickstarted on a viral talk that he gave at DICE, gamification. Everybody's just like, well, if we just add badges to track learning, then everything will be fun. Achievements, there you go, it's an educational game. That's all I have to say. It's a gamifying stuff. You're done when you think it's released. You're like, oh, we're all done. You have no plan beyond that. That's happened before. You don't think about your press release. You don't think about a distribution. You don't think about how to get the word out. You don't think about how to share it with people. And so nobody finds your game and it dies in the App Store at silent death. And so thinking beyond when you finish the development is really, really important. Well, let's play opposite day, that it's easy and quick to make games. We can do it in 3 months. We can do it in, it's just really, really simple because games are fun. I can play games. I can design a game. And it's also really cheap. Like the classic triangle of there. You get 3 things. Cost, time, and scope. Fast, cheap, and good. Pick 2. That's all you're going to get. Then the just add philosophy. Well, if we just add a little learning to the game that we got, it'll actually be fun. If we just add some fun to this learning we've got. Oh yeah, we just add some magic, a sprinkle. This is my favorite. Some of us are guilty of this, myself included. That anyone can do it. That's an academic fallacy there. Not everybody's a game designer. Not everybody can make something that's engaging and fun and learning. Flip that around too. Not everybody is a learning specialist. Not everybody goes, well, I went through math. I can teach math. And so that's one of the things a lot of people, academics are really getting into educational games. And a lot of them are like, well, I'm going to start a company. I'm going to make educational games. And there's a lot of bad games out there because of that. One of the things we fall for is making the creepy tree house. Kids smell this from afar. We try to make something fun and it smells a little educational and they go running. And so this is an ed tech crowd. Somebody in the ed tech crowd coined this term of just like they can smell that something adults are saying, ooh, you guys like Minecraft? We're going to make an educational version that has all this stuff. And then they go to that and they're like, this is educational. Plus, bad learning games suck to the nth degree. That we're all guilty of that. There's a lot of bad learning games out there, and that just sort of like erodes any sort of possibility of people actually thinking about making them good. Here's my favorite, for instance. You ready?
Cool! Toy store! Awesome! I'm blessing all the state capitals! Take that, Salem, Oregon! Wait a minute, this game is educational. That'll teach you to teach me.
You don't want that to happen. See, they smell it. So, how do you make magic, like Jesse was talking about? How do you try to make something that really, really captures kids' engagement, how that they get immersed and actually has some results? They're actually learning from that. Ooh, all that together. So there actually is a process you can go through. Right? Thinking about how you set up your learning goals while you're designing is really important. Something we preach around ETC in various ways is less talk, more rock. Anybody heard this talk? It's an awesome talk by Super Brothers at GDC, the Game Developers Conference. What they were talking about is a normal development cycle is, oh, I have an idea. Let's talk about it, let's talk about it, let's talk about it, let's talk about it, let's talk about it. And then we'll make it, we'll rock on it, we'll rock on that. And so they're like, no, that's not how you make games. If you want to make a good game, I have an idea, let's rock. Let's make it, let's iterate, let's try it, let's test it, let's get it out there, and then talk about it. So rapid prototyping, getting your ideas out there is something that really, really helps when you're trying to make something. Getting it in front of kids as soon as possible, whether it's paper prototyping, something really quick on a computer before you put it to an iPad. That's not to say that it's not hard. Making a good game is hard. Making it fun and making it work. There's lots of games out there. We're not even talking educational games. There's a lot of sucky games out there. On the iPad, on the, just in the littered history of computer games. And then on top of that, learning's hard. Really hard. But I think challenge is good. In both games and learning. I'd argue so much the reason games are so successful at capturing kids is they're not scared to be challenging. They actually scaffold their challenges really, really well. Learning, not so much. Well, some learning, good learning. I'm not going to pick on anybody who teaches school, because I love teachers. But school systems maybe don't scaffold challenges really, really well. And the whole idea, I think, of a good challenge is keeping it pleasantly frustrating.
What is a good example of a scaffold?
I'll get to that.
Okay.
Thank you for leading me into my next slide. So, it can't be too simple. Anybody still play tic-tac-toe competitively?
Yes.
You got kids. If you've got kids, you maybe. But you said it's too simple. It's a game that's too simple. People start figuring it out and they go, And there's a movie that's all about this. I can point it to you if you want. Similarly, not too hard. You don't want to go too hard. Reality, worst game ever. And so that's like broadly written that way. And then it gets into, and I'll dig deeper for you if you'd like. So the idea is hitting that sweet spot. What games do really, really well. And a quick example, Super Mario Brothers, particularly the more modern ones. They start teaching you how to play them while you're playing them. And like Jim G gave this great talk a couple of years ago, again at the Game Developers Conference, where he's like, a good game, the final exam is the boss level. And if you passed it, you mastered the game. So games really do pull it all together for you in a way. And like Katie Salen at the Quest and Learn School, It's modeled on using game design as a lens for all the curriculum in a systemic way. And they don't have final exams, they have boss levels that they solve together over a week. And the boss levels make kids cry. And the parents are calling going, what the heck? Then towards the end of the week, they start figuring stuff out because they're like pulling it all together from the semester or quarter. When we talk about pleasantly frustrating, a lot of people talk about flow. Csikszentmihalyi's notion of flow, where you have rewarding challenges. Again, so it's not too hard, not too simple, and you end up in this flow challenge. As you start mastering a game, the difficulty rises to your level of mastery. So if you get better, the game gets harder. If it gets too hard too quick, oh my God, this is frustrating, I quit. If it's too easy for too long, you get bored and you quit. So a really well-designed game hits that sweet spot where you get into a flow channel. It's all about agency and literacy. It matters that we do stuff in games. Often kids, when you talk to them about school, they feel like it doesn't matter that they do anything in school. But in a game, they're like, my actions matter. And then they start developing a literacy as a game player about how to sort of test systems and become a better player. This, of course, means you fail a lot. And I love that. Learn from our mistakes. I think failure is awesome. We get more grit. At the ETC, we reward the first penguin in the Building Virtual Worlds class that Jesse teaches with other faculty members. That's like the team that tried to do the awesomest thing that just didn't work. The most crazy, cool, awesome, blah, 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 and it failed. So we encourage them in terms of rapid prototyping. Fail faster, experiment, explore, try to do things. Get that bad idea out now. Because you'll work your way through testing and iteration to what's good. So that's really good. We iterate towards those good solutions. And I'm a big fan of doubt. And so anybody who's certain, I love this quote, anybody who's certain, I don't trust them. I love people who kind of ask questions, challenge their assumptions, work to understand, be open to changing their minds. Like Jesse was saying last night, the whole idea of having wonder, being curious. And that leads me to curiosity, something I care a lot about. Encouraging people to ask questions, engage. That is a lifelong thing you can do, figuring out how stuff works. Problem solving, and in games, it's all about problem solving. What I love about games is cheating is a great way to problem solve. It's like pushing at the system. And so that's an interesting way. You can find the bug, you can find a new hack, you can find a way around something. You push at the system, you start discovering stuff. In school, if you talk about cheating, it's like you fail. Automatically caught. But it's interesting in games, sometimes it's rewarded. It's highly debated what cheating is in games. Is it cheating to go to gamefacts.com and go I'm trying to figure out this puzzle, and how much time? It doesn't matter if you're playing by yourself and you're just cheating yourself. If it's a multiplayer game, so you're cheating others. And I think curiosity is all about storytelling and model making. It's all about how we make sense of the world. And I like this quote as well, it reminded me from last night. I think that's C.J. Sherrill, because curiosity was free. And I think it's the literacy we develop in terms of curiosity. We can help pull it out. There's actually a whole, not much, but like Jesse was saying last night, there's a little bit of literature on boredom and curiosity and failure, and how those combine together get kids inspired to do stuff, and how they learn, how they can challenge themselves and create their own skills. It becomes a lifelong skill. Like I was saying earlier, you can make your own cookies. You start figuring out how to do it. And we really try to preach that around the ETC. Randy Pausch, one of the founders of the ETC and famous for the last lecture, used to call the ETC the world's best playground with an electric fence. Because learning needs challenges. Success needs those failures. Creativity needs constraints. The extraordinary needs boundaries. This is sort of like a hero's journey. And you know you're stepping into something. And I'd say maybe, just maybe, magic needs dust. Stop it. And so one of the things Jesse coined was the idea of transformational games. Can we make games for impact it's beyond transference, that you're not just testing better, that you're learning through play, that you start creating your own, that changes your daily lives, changes behavior, has an impact on the world? And we say, yes, I think you can do that. I don't think it's easy, but we want to try, so we're really pushing on that. A couple examples. If this hadn't been demoed, Dragonbox, I highly recommend it. It's a very, very nice game. Beautiful how it starts, because it's symbolic at first, and then it works into real equations. The other one, this is not a game, but I have to share it to you guys. This is not an educational game. It's an indie game, it's a little teeny art game, but it is wondrously magical, and I think it really gets at ideas of perception and imagination in the world itself. So I'm going to demo it really quick, just to get to the first puzzle. I'm going to spoil the first puzzle, I'm sorry. can get feedback. Like Warren, I'm going to test you guys. How many different levels of perception is this guy playing with? The designer.
4.
Wait a second. Oh. So I can go into his thoughts. Big clue here. No, it's breaking on the screen. No, resolution. See if I can fix it real quick. Are we stuck? Yeah, we're stuck. Sorry. You'll get a sense. You can still see. You can play with foreground and background. Okay, so it's cut off. I will play it more later.
That's because you're searching.
I can't. It's right there. The button's up there. It doesn't have scroll. No, it's the. I'm sorry. I'll play it more if you guys are interested. One of the things I think this guy does wonderfully is the idea of playing around with shape, and then he starts training us. The foreground and background don't have to be the same thing. That imagination and reality can be connected. That irrational and irregular and imaginary numbers can exist. And so he does a great job playing with that. I just blow my goodness. So that's just a little magic. I'm happy to show more Gore. It's beautiful. One of the things that we've done, the OSTP, Constance Steinkuhler, who spent the last 18 months as a senior policy analyst in the White House at the Office for Science, Technology Policy, formed an academic consortium of 20 universities. And we worked together to try to create a best practices document to help dust not happen, to help the magic happen. You can find it at gamesforimpact.com. There's slides, there's also a PDF of it. It's just it was fun writing hard on 20 universities trying to work on a document together. It started as let's do a one-page document. And I get some faculty going, here's my 50-page paper, and I need all of this in there. But we got it down to 5 pages. But it's actually really well done. I think it does a nice job trying to get at a process and some best practices to avoid the dust and help make the magic. So that's everything. That's my little talk, and to the end, there's a recipe for the best chocolate chip cookies you've ever had. Thank you for your time.